my eyes to see the spiritual truth today. Now over your ears, I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today. And now over your heart, and extend out your arms, I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. The spiritual truth that I'm working with today is that God will be with you until the end of time. God will be with you until the end of time. I'm not talking about, and when I say that, I mean love will be with you until the end of time. Compassion will be with you until the end of time. Mercy will be with you until the end of time. Abundance will be with you until the end of time. When I say God is with you until the end of time, I'm not talking about a man in the sky who's going to pull the strings of your life until you die. I'm talking about a universal intelligence that thinks through you at this moment, has thought through you all the moments before this moment, and will think through you all the moments after this moment, and all the moments in between. For many of us, God needs a makeover in our mind. Because we think of God as some kind of an entity, a being. God is not a being. God is an energy in our life. And you know what? This idea that God is an energy, that God is an essence, that God comes alive through our heart and mind is not part of the New Thought tradition only. It actually is often first stated in the Torah, the sacred scripture of the Jews, in which it is written that if God will fulfill whatever it is we need if we allow it. God is referred to as Jehovah Jireh, as my provider, my feast of wheat, my feast of unleavened bread, my day star, my spring, my manna. My God is my Boaz, my trumpet. God is my kinsman redeemer. Those are all just messages to remind us that God is our source in our life. All of them are provisions for the vision that we can create in our life. But see, most of us don't need a feast of unleavened bread or trumpets in our life, and most of us don't even know who Boaz was or is or what he did. So we need to have a makeover, an update of our resume. God is the husband that you want. God is the loan fulfilled that you've just applied for. God is your oncologist. God is the marriage counselor that you're working with. God is the strength that you need in order to help your kids finish their homework when you are dead tired coming home from work. God is that new outfit. See, we bring this essence, this energy called God into form through our intention. In the beginning was the Word, and then the Word was with God, and then the Word was God. And God will be with you until the end of time. Our work is to begin to recognize the vastness of God by doing whatever it takes to bring this energy, this essence, into our consciousness. See, it's not to bring it into our lives because it's already here. It's to bring it into our consciousness in our life. To do whatever it takes. Turn to a neighbor and say, whatever it takes. You know, there's a story that Dr. King wrote about when he was in Montgomery, and the death threats had become so great and so frequent and with so much detail that death threats that he had not taken seriously prior to this, he was starting to take seriously because it upset his family, it upset his handlers, it upset other people in the civil rights movement. They knew that it was dangerous time for him. And he began to catch their fear. And one night, he said at 3 o'clock in the morning, he woke up in the middle of the night and he began to pace. And he began to say, Lord, I'm not strong enough. I'm weak. I'm not able to continue this work. And then he began to pray. He fell to his knees and he began to pray. And God answered his prayer. He said, in this way. Martin, stand up. Stand up for justice. Stand up for righteousness. Stand up for dignity. Lo, I will be with you until the end of time. See, he began to understand that idea. But most of us need help. I mean, Martin was a minister of many years, a man devoted to Christianity, devoted to the Bible, devoted to prayer. Some of us, myself included, in this room, may need a little help to get to that consciousness where we always rely on the vastness of God that is within us. So I'm going to look today to one of the greatest spiritual teachers that ever came to the planet, Jesus of Nazareth. And I say one of the greatest teachers because I know that there are people in this room who want to be careful with that. Buddha was a great teacher. Lao Tzu was a great teacher. Joe Dispenza is a great teacher. There are many great teachers, but because some of us in this room have been injured in the name of Christians in our life, because of how we live and how we love and how we walk the streets, I'm afraid that some of us throw the baby out with the bathwater. We just hear the word Jesus and we completely go to sleep. And I want to tell you and remind you of something you already know, and that is Jesus was born a Jew, lived an observant Jew, and died a Jew. Christianity and the ways of Christians came after that. Yes, based on his teachings, sometimes a little confused, but Jesus never hurt us. In fact, one of the reasons that Jesus was crucified was because his ministry was as inclusive as it was. Jesus loved. So today I want to look at one of the parables found only in the Gospel of Mark of Jesus, a very small parable called the seed growing secretly. But before I get to the parable itself, I want to talk about what a parable is. A parable is a small story with two ways of looking at it. There's the obvious way that kind of helps us, and then there's the subtle invitation in that parable, an illustration of how God works. What's God's method to bring us our good? And this little seed has some great wisdom for us. One of the reasons that all religions use parables is to help people who think they know it all create an empty mind. Because if you go at them straight and say, this is how God's work, I know that, I know that, I know that. But if you tell them a little story, and Jesus was a master of this, when you tell them a little story, oftentimes they drop that idea that they know everything, and they're just listening to the story. And as a result, they get what they need, because giving God a makeover takes an empty mind for us in our life. In fact, in another part of the Bible, it says that it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into heaven. Not talking about money, he's talking about ideas. We have so many ideas in our head that we can't let new ideas in our life. So I'm going to read the gospel, and I'm going to read from Mark chapter 4, 26, 29. Those of you with your Bibles, take them. I always wanted to say that here. And so he said, as is in the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of good, the kingdom of heaven, as if a man should cast seed into the ground and should sleep and rise night and day, and the seed should spring up. He knoweth not how. For the earth brings forth fruit of herself, first in the blade, and then in the tip of the wheat, and after that the full stem of the wheat. And when the fruit is brought forth, immediately he put in the sickle, because the harvest has come. Powerful wisdom for Jesus in this from Jesus in this very little story. The first thing he's reminding us, and we remind ourselves a lot in this church, is to live in the kingdom of good, to live in the kingdom of heaven in your life, you must cast a seed. There can't be a provision if there is no vision. And so you must cast a seed in your life. So you have to plant a dream. Martin Luther King didn't say, his famous speech isn't called, I have a plan. It's called, I have a dream in my life. We have to plant dreams. We have to plant desires. We have to plant needs in our life. And you know what? Your desires, your dreams are simply God's expression in your life. Now, almost all of Jesus' parables tell us to plant the seed. But the great thing about Jesus is that he not only tells us it's critical. If you want a change in your life, you have to have a seed. You have to have a vision for it. But he also tells us how. He doesn't just tell us we need it. He tells us how to do it. You should sleep and rise night and day, and the seed should spring up. He knoweth not how. Cast your dreams and then relax. Cast your dreams and then relax. See, relax doesn't mean to go to sleep. It means keep before you today's spiritual principle. God will be with you until the end of time. Anxiety kills dreams. And my experience is this: the higher my dream, the higher my anxiety level. And you know what? I'm getting to practice that now. My dream is to grow this church both in attendance and in consciousness in my life. And so I plant the seed, and then I relax. I plant it in my consciousness. It's to grow it both in people, but also in how we understand God's ways here. Jesus is telling us that we ought to plant our seed and then put it in God's capable hands and get out of the way. Does that mean that we sit at home and eat bonbons and just assume God's going to bring us what it is that we want? No, it means that we need to do the next thing in front of us. That's what it means. See, the board, the practitioners, the ministers of this church, we don't sit back and hope that the church fills up. We don't sit back and hope that you become more understanding of God's ways and God's laws in here. No, we prepare sermons and we teach classes and we vision ways to support you during the week. We vision ways to get more money to come into the church so we can support you. We can buy out movie theaters, entire movie theaters in our life. But when we start feeling anxious, when I start feeling anxious, I have two roads I can go down. One road will help me, and one road is going to hinder me. I can stay in touch with today's principle. God will be with you until the end of time. And I can remind myself that through prayer and through meditation, that my word will never come back to me void. And further, I can remind myself that my ego's time and God's time may not be looking at the same clock. It may be a different time. Many of you are familiar with the name T.D. Jakes. He is a bishop of a church in Texas, an evangelical Christian church in Texas, and he always knew he would have a large, power-filled ministry. He always knew that, and today he does. He remained sure of that dream. When there were only 6 people in the front pew and no other people in any pews, and the 6 people were mostly his family members. He remained sure when he was so poor that he had to hitchhike to his little church in Texas in order to preach. He remained sure when he had to go out and recycle cans and bodies so his kids could have bologna sandwiches to eat. His success didn't happen overnight, but he remained committed to his dream. He didn't dummy it down. He didn't say, well, I'll go be a checker for a while, or I'll go dig ditches and I'll preach every once in a while when I can. No, he knew he was here to do God's work, and he kept his dream alive. He understood that whenever you have a vision, there will always be a provision in our life. Does that mean that he never got anxious? No, he got anxious. Did he ever doubt? Of course he doubted. But he thought that anxiety was a dream killer. In fact, he said about it this way. He said that Anxious people are susceptible to the devil. Now what we would say here is anxious people are susceptible to what I call red herrings. Red herrings are just thoughts that are misleading for us. They're distracting for us. You have what it takes to fulfill whatever dream you can dream up. And anything else is a red herring in your life. Those of you who are entrepreneurs, there are consumers out there who are looking for your gifts. And anything else is a red herring in your life. There are people out there, if you're lonely, there are people out there who want to be your friend. And anything else is a red herring in your life. There is abundance in your future if you want it. And you're willing to study the ways of abundance. And anything else is a red herring in your life. You want vibrant health, it can be yours. And anything else is a red herring in your life. Red herrings make us anxious, and anxiety requires a lot of attention in order to live, in order to influence us in our life. When we're prayed up, when we understand today's spiritual principle, and when we give ourselves the gift of a quiet moment with God, just a quiet moment with God every day, we can sleep and rise night and day and know that our seed is growing in our life. Get a jump on your anxiety by being prayed up. What should I pray? I'm going to tell you. Here's the prayer. The prayer is, I'm clear God is with me until the end of time in whatever form I need at any time. I am clear God is within me until the end of time and will take form in whatever I need in my life. Let's go on to the next phrase in the parable. For the earth brings forth the fruit of herself. First, the blade of grass. You start little. And then a stem. And then the full wheat after that. See, there's a process to that. For the earth brings forth the fruit of herself. Your soul knows how to make your dream come manifest. Your brain may not, but your soul knows how to make your dream come alive. And you have to feed your soul. We have to feed our soul with spiritual reading. We have to feed our soul by coming to class. We have to feed our soul with music that touches our heart. I don't know what kind of music that is for you, but you know what music touches your heart. That's feeding your soul. That's soul food for you in your life. You have to tithe to make sure the universe signals the law of circulation. I know about the law of circulation, universe. I know about it because I'm using it in my life. This isn't for the church, it's for you in your life. If your cupboards are bare of spiritual food and you just don't know where to shop for more spiritual food, practitioners in the house, please stand. Ministers in the house, please stand. These people know where to shop, and they will help you shop for spiritual food. Thank you, be seated. God is showing us every day in little baby steps that the seed is growing secretly, that the shoot is there, the little blade is coming through in our life. Are we giving thanks for those baby steps? I don't know about you, but I want the whole Megillah right now. It's so hard when I don't see the whole thing to give thanks. But if we can train ourselves to look for our seed shooting up, look for it every day. Where is my dream trying to get through? Where is it coming up? Where is the little seed? And give thanks for that. Because that's where the seed will grow faster. That's the nourishment in the soil for your seed in your life. Sometimes we're willing to take bold steps in the direction of our dreams. Are we being grateful for the bold steps in our life? In our life. Let's look at the final verse of this. But when the fruit is brought forth, immediately he grabs the sickle, for the harvest has come. For the harvest has come. When your dream shows up, are you ready to see it? Even if it's out of context? In my practitioner practice in Santa Rosa, before I came here, I don't know how this happened, but I would attract women who were looking for husbands. Least person who should be looking for a husband, but I did. And I was always amazed in my life, in my practice, because they would have an idea of a husband, but it was so constricted that any husband that might come along, they wanted Jim. They wanted the perfect James. And if the perfect James wasn't there, they couldn't see their husband. Whereas perfect husband material would come up and come up and come up and come up, march right by them, ask them out for coffee, tell them how beautiful did they see him? No, they didn't see them, because they had their eye fixed on what Jim should look like, on James, on what he should look like. Are we willing to get the sickle out for the harvest when it comes, and be willing to have a large enough view to know what it is that we want in our life? I think you will. Let's take this message into prayer. Knowing that there's only one power. It's the power of love that comes right through me all the time. And so I'm ready. I'm ready to just say thank you. That's really the only prayer I need. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I give thanks for that. I release this word in the lawn together to say. And so, before I